A great story never truly ends. It lingers, echoing in the hearts of those who experienced it. Downton Abbey was never just a show. It was a world, an escape into a time of elegance, duty, and unspoken desire. And now, as we arrive at its grand finale, the question is not simply whether the story is over, but whether it has given us the ending we always longed for. When Downton Abbey first appeared on television screens, it immediately transported us to a world both familiar and foreign. Set in the early 20th century, it showed us the grandeur of an aristocratic family, while also pulling us into the lives of the servants who lived below the stairs. The brilliance of the show was its balance. It never let us forget that this was a household of many layers, where traditions and expectations ruled as much as love and loyalty did. Every episode was not just about fancy dinners and titles, but about human struggles, ambitions, and quiet victories. The series became more than entertainment. It became a cultural moment. People across the world tuned in, week after week, not just to follow plots, but to live alongside the Crawleys and their staff. The way the show captured social change, whether it was women stepping into new roles, the decline of the aristocracy, or the rise of modern values, gave it depth and meaning. Yet it never lost its heart. It showed that behind the walls of this great estate, people laughed, cried, and hoped just like we do today. One of the strongest elements of Downton Abbey was its characters. From Lady Mary's strength and vulnerability to Carson's unwavering devotion, every character felt alive. They were not perfect. They made mistakes, struggled with jealousy, ambition, and pride. But that is exactly why we cared for them, because in their flaws, we found pieces of ourselves. The writing was sharp, full of wit, yet tender enough to touch the soul. Visually, the show was breathtaking. Each detail, the costumes, the rolling countryside, the rich interiors of the Abbey, was crafted with love. It didn't just show us history, it made us feel it. Watching Downton Abbey was like stepping back in time, yet it always had something to say about the present. It reminded us that while the world changes, people remain driven by the same need for connection, belonging, and purpose. Its impact stretched beyond television. It inspired fashion trends, tours of Highclere Castle where the show was filmed, and endless discussions about its themes. Downton Abbey was not only a story, it was an experience. It brought generations together, young and old, in shared fascination for a period that shaped the modern world. The success of the show could be measured in numbers. Yes, awards won, millions of viewers across the globe. But the true success was in how deeply it resonated. People did not just watch Downton Abbey. They invested in it, emotionally and personally. They waited eagerly for each season, discussing theories, celebrating romances, and mourning losses. Few series have achieved that level of intimacy with their audience. Now, years later, with the grand finale film, we carry all those memories with us. Every line spoken, every goodbye shared in the movie, is colored by the legacy of what came before. Downton Abbey has always been about more than a single story. It has been about the lives it touched and the history it kept alive. As we reflect on this final chapter, it is impossible not to look back at how the journey began and why it mattered so much. Every great story eventually reaches a moment when it must decide how to say goodbye. For Downton Abbey, that moment came not in silence, but in grandeur, with a final film that sought to capture the essence of everything the series had stood for. The movie was more than a continuation. It was a farewell letter, written not only to its characters, but also to the millions of people who followed them faithfully. The announcement of the grand finale movie carried with it a weight of expectation. Fans had already said goodbye once when the television series ended, but there was always a lingering hope that the story might return. When news spread that Downton Abbey would grace the big screen once again, it felt less like a marketing decision and more like a gift. A chance to gather in the familiar halls of the Abbey, to sit down with old friends, and to let the story breathe one last time. What makes a finale powerful is not the spectacle of its events, but the emotions it stirs. The grand finale promised to bring everything full circle. It wasn't just about tying up loose ends. It was about honoring years of character development, about rewarding the patience of fans who had grown with these people. Every scene carried the weight of history behind it. Every reunion, every conversation, every glance across a dinner table was layered with meaning, reminding us of where these journeys began. There is something rare about a story that knows when to end. Too often, tales drag on until the magic wears thin. Downton Abbey chose a different path. It didn't try to reinvent itself. Instead, it leaned into what made it beloved: elegance, emotion, and truth. The movie was a promise that fans would not be left unsatisfied, that the final note would be one of grace, not exhaustion. The excitement around the release was not just about seeing familiar faces. It was about closure. For years, people had carried questions about where these characters would end up. Would love triumph? Would traditions crumble? Would the bonds that held the household together survive? The grand finale offered answers, but more importantly, it offered comfort. It assured its audience that while time moves forward, the heart of Downton Abbey would remain intact. And in a way, the film's release itself mirrored the themes of the story. Downton Abbey had always been about change, about old ways fading and new ones rising, about families facing the future while clinging to the past. The movie became a reflection of this very idea. It was both an ending and a beginning. The end of new stories, yes, but also the beginning of its life as a complete, timeless saga that could be revisited again and again. For many, going to the theater to watch this final film was not just about entertainment. It was an event, almost a ritual. People dressed up, gathered with loved ones, and experienced it together, as though they were attending a real gathering at the Abbey itself. That shared anticipation gave the finale a sense of celebration, not mourning. It was not just a goodbye, it was a toast to everything the story had given us. As the lights dimmed and the familiar theme music filled the theater, it became clear this was not just the next chapter, it was the last one. And with that knowledge came a bittersweet beauty, because sometimes endings are not there to break us. They are there to remind us how precious the journey has been. Every farewell carries a story within it, and the grand finale of Downton Abbey is no exception. While the film honors the elegance of the past, it also embraces the inevitability of change. Without giving away too much, the plot weaves together themes of legacy, love, and the quiet dignity of moving forward when life insists on it. At its core, the movie invites us back into the lives of the Crawley family and the loyal staff who have served them for decades. The halls of Downton feel both familiar and different. Time has passed, and with it, new challenges and opportunities emerge. The estate remains a symbol of tradition, yet the people inside are confronted with decisions that will shape the future in ways they cannot ignore. The narrative does not rely on shocking twists or grand spectacles. Instead, it leans into the emotional truths that have always defined the series. Characters we know so well find themselves at crossroads, some facing personal endings, others embracing new beginnings. What gives the film its power is not the complexity of its plot, but the weight of its moments. A single line of dialogue, a gentle smile, or a bittersweet farewell becomes more meaningful because of everything we've witnessed before. The movie balances two worlds: the upstairs elegance of the Crawleys and the downstairs resilience of the servants. Both sides are given space to shine, and both reveal how intertwined their lives have become. While the film celebrates luxury and grandeur, it never forgets the quiet dignity of those who work in the shadows. This duality has always been the heart of Downton Abbey, and in the finale, it feels more poignant than ever. Change pulses through every scene. The old ways are fading. The certainty of class and tradition begins to blur, and yet there is comfort in how the characters hold on to their values. Love continues to grow, friendships deepen, and the bonds of family, whether by blood or by choice, remain unbreakable. These are not just stories about a grand estate. They are stories about people searching for meaning in an uncertain world. And in that way, the film resonates deeply with modern audiences too. What makes the plot so effective is its ability to honor the past while allowing the future to breathe. Instead of rewriting the story or forcing drama where none is needed, the movie accepts its role as a conclusion. It gives each character a place, whether that place is in the spotlight or in quiet reflection. It does not try to shock us. It tries to soothe us, to remind us that endings can be beautiful, even when they are filled with loss. For fans who have followed the series from the very beginning, the plot feels like a final letter written by an old friend. It acknowledges the journey, answers lingering questions, and closes the door gently, with grace. It's a film that asks you not to expect fireworks but to listen closely, to cherish the smaller details, and to allow yourself to feel the weight of farewell. And while the movie ties threads together, it also leaves something unsaid, a sense that life will go on, that the Abbey will continue to stand even as we turn away from it. That is perhaps the greatest strength of the story. It reminds us that while we leave the characters behind, their world remains alive in memory, ready to be revisited whenever we wish. The true soul of Downton Abbey has never been the estate itself, but the people who walked its corridors, who carried their hopes, their fears, and their secrets within those walls. The grand finale gives us the rare gift of witnessing these characters at the end of their journeys, standing at the threshold between past and future. It is not about rewriting who they are, but about honoring who they have become. For the Crawley family, the movie becomes a mirror. It reflects the weight of their legacy while challenging them to accept change. Lady Mary, so often the pillar of strength, once again faces choices that test her resolve. There is an elegance in how her character balances duty and desire. She embodies what Downton Abbey has always been about: the fight to preserve tradition while daring to embrace the new. Watching her in this final chapter feels like watching someone grow into the role destiny carved for them, not with fanfare but with quiet dignity. The servants, who for years gave their lives to the Crawleys, find themselves in moments of reckoning too. Some are forced to imagine what life means beyond the walls of Downton, while others discover that their identities have been shaped by the loyalty and love they gave to this household. The finale acknowledges them not as shadows of the aristocracy, but as individuals with their own dreams, their own voices. It is a reminder that while titles and wealth may define a house, it is the people who keep it alive. There are arcs that feel tenderly complete, relationships that have endured storms finally finding calm waters. There are also arcs that remain tinged with melancholy, where time proves to be the greatest challenge of all. But that is the beauty of these journeys. They feel authentic. The movie does not pretend that everyone can be granted a perfect ending. Instead, it gives each character the ending that feels true to who they are. One of the most powerful aspects of the finale is how it allows the ensemble cast to breathe as one. For years, Downton Abbey has been defined by its ability to juggle multiple stories at once, weaving them together seamlessly. In the movie, this strength is amplified. Every scene feels like a shared tapestry, with each character adding a thread that completes the whole. No one is left without significance, even if their story is quieter than others. The emotional pull comes not from sudden twists, but from the recognition of growth. We remember who these characters were when we first met them: the stubbornness of Lady Mary, the steadfast formality of Carson, the youthful innocence of others, and we see how far they've come. This sense of continuity makes the final chapter resonate deeply. It is like watching old friends at a reunion, recognizing the ways they've changed, while also cherishing the parts of them that have stayed the same. The film understands that closure does not mean perfection. It means giving characters peace with who they are, even if not all of their dreams come true. It means showing that life goes on, and that the choices they make now will ripple into a future we may never see, but one we can imagine. That open-endedness, paired with resolution, is what makes the journeys feel so human. In the end, the character arcs are less about where they end up and more about what they represent: resilience, love, duty, change. These were always the pillars of Downton Abbey, and in the grand finale, they shine with even greater clarity. Watching these people step into their destinies feels like watching a carefully composed piece of music reach its final note. Not abrupt, not dragged out, but perfectly placed. If characters are the heart of Downton Abbey, then its world, the way it is seen, felt, and remembered, has always been its soul. The grand finale carries this tradition with a level of craftsmanship that transforms the screen into a living canvas. Every frame is composed not just to tell a story, but to remind us of why this world mattered in the first place. From the moment the camera sweeps across the familiar silhouette of Highclere Castle, we know we are home. The estate stands as more than a backdrop. It is a character in its own right. Its towering walls and manicured gardens echo with history, carrying the memories of laughter, grief, and quiet contemplation. In the finale, the cinematography makes this presence even stronger. Wide shots capture the scale of its grandeur, while intimate close-ups remind us of the emotions pulsing within. The Abbey feels eternal, even as time threatens to move on without it. The costumes, as always, are exquisite. Every gown, every uniform, every carefully chosen accessory is a reflection of the era and the person who wears it. Lady Mary's wardrobe speaks of elegance and authority, while the servant's attire whispers of discipline and humility. But the clothing is more than period detail. It is character development woven into fabric. As the story edges toward its close, the costumes become a visual symbol of where these people stand, of the journeys they have endured. Lighting plays a quiet but powerful role. There is a warmth in the glow of dinner scenes, a golden softness that suggests comfort, tradition, and togetherness. In contrast, the shadows of certain moments hint at uncertainty and change, reminding us that even in beauty there can be loss. The cinematography balances grandeur with intimacy, never letting us forget that Downton Abbey is both a spectacle and a sanctuary. The music, too, deserves its own recognition. The familiar theme returns, not as a repetition, but as a reminder, each note carrying years of memories. In moments of joy, the score swells with energy, as if celebrating alongside the characters. In moments of sorrow, it quiets, allowing silence to carry as much weight as sound. The music does not overwhelm. It guides, it embraces. It ensures that every scene lingers in the heart long after the screen fades. What stands out most about the production is its refusal to rush. The film takes its time, letting moments breathe. A glance across a room, the sound of footsteps on polished floors, the rustle of gowns against marble. These are not filler, they are texture. They are the sensory threads that make Downton Abbey feel alive. The attention to detail is astonishing, yet it never feels heavy-handed. Instead, it feels effortless, as though the Abbey has simply existed like this all along, waiting for us to notice. Even the outdoor sequences carry symbolic weight. The rolling hills, the shifting skies, the subtle passing of seasons. They all reflect the themes of transition and legacy. Nature becomes part of the narrative, whispering that while human stories may end, the world continues, vast and unyielding. In its cinematography and production, the grand finale does what the series has always done best. It captures the tension between permanence and change. The Abbey itself is timeless, but the people within it remind us that life moves forward. This duality is etched into every frame, making the film not only a story but an experience, one that engages the eyes, the ears, and most importantly, the heart. What gives the grand finale its lasting power is not one single scene or character, but the way everything blends together into a symphony of emotion. This is a story that understands its audience, honors its roots, and delivers a farewell that feels both satisfying and profound. The first strength lies in the emotional payoffs. For more than a decade, audiences have carried the weight of these characters in their hearts. The finale rewards that loyalty by giving us moments of closure that feel earned rather than forced. It does not resort to grand spectacle or hollow sentimentality. Instead, it allows us to see these people arrive at the destinations their journeys have always been leading toward. Some arrive with joy, others with tears, but each resolution feels honest. That honesty is the gift the film offers its viewers. Another strength is its ensemble cast. Few productions manage to balance so many characters without leaving someone forgotten. Yet here, every voice finds its moment, no matter how small. Whether it is a servant quietly achieving dignity or a Crawley navigating their legacy, Each arc contributes to the larger mosaic. This unity gives the film a richness that single-character dramas often lack. The finale reminds us that Downton Abbey was never about one person, but about a household, a community bound together by shared history. Nostalgia also plays a powerful role. The movie knows that its audience has walked these halls before. It sprinkles in moments that echo earlier seasons, familiar lines, gestures, even glances that recall times long past. These callbacks are not used as tricks, but as threads tying the story together. They remind us that we have been here before, and now we are here again, but this time to say goodbye. That layering of memory is what makes the farewell so moving. The pacing of the finale is another strength. It does not rush toward its conclusion. It lingers. It breathes. It gives us time to absorb what we are witnessing. This rhythm mirrors life itself, where goodbyes are not spoken in haste, but savored slowly with weight and tenderness. In an age of fast storytelling and quick resolutions, Downton Abbey dares to move at its own graceful pace. That patience makes the ending feel all the more meaningful. The cinematography and production design, which we already explored, also serve as strengths when combined with the narrative. They create a stage where emotions feel heightened yet grounded in reality. The visual beauty amplifies the human drama, ensuring that when a character smiles or weeps, the moment is etched deeper into our memory. And perhaps the greatest strength of all is the finale's refusal to betray its identity. It does not try to reinvent what Downton Abbey has always been. It does not chase trends or modern storytelling tricks. Instead, it leans into the qualities that made it beloved: elegance, warmth, dignity, and humanity. It delivers not a spectacle, but a conclusion that feels like a natural extension of the story we began so many years ago. The grand finale proves that sometimes the greatest strength of a story lies not in surprise, but in recognition. In seeing characters we love find peace, in feeling that the hours we invested in their lives were worth it, in knowing that when the curtain falls, it does so with grace. That is the triumph of Downton Abbey's final chapter. It does not only end a story, it leaves us with a memory that feels timeless. Every story that captures the imagination must one day release its hold. The grand finale of Downton Abbey does exactly that. It lets go, but with such care that the parting feels less like loss and more like gratitude. This is not a goodbye shouted across the halls of history. It is a whisper, a soft closing of a door that has always stood open to us. The strength of the finale lies in its balance. It delivers closure without smothering possibility, emotion without sentimentality, grandeur without losing intimacy. It understands what the audience came for, not to be surprised, but to be comforted. It offers the reassurance that the journeys we followed for years have found meaning, that the characters we cared for have not been abandoned to silence. As the film draws to its end, there is a quiet inevitability. The Abbey remains standing, as it always has, but the people within it have changed, grown, and stepped into their futures. We, the audience, are invited to do the same. The finale does not trap us in the past. It reminds us that while stories end, their echoes endure. Every line of dialogue, every lingering glance, every melody in the score becomes part of a memory we can revisit whenever we choose. For those who demand perfection, the finale may not satisfy every desire. There are threads that feel rushed, characters who deserved more time, and choices that could divide opinion. But perhaps that too is the point. Life rarely grants perfect endings. It grants endings that feel real, and in that realism lies beauty. Downton Abbey closes not as a flawless tale, but as a truthful one. The final verdict, then, is simple. Downton Abbey. The grand finale succeeds because it never forgets what made it extraordinary in the first place. It is not the size of its story, but the depth of its heart. It is not the grandeur of its estate, but the humanity of those who lived within it. The movie is not only a farewell to characters, but to a world that reminded us of love, resilience, tradition, and change. And so, when the last frame fades and the music softens into silence, what remains is not sorrow, but gratitude. Gratitude for the years of storytelling, Gratitude for the journeys we witnessed. Gratitude for the chance to say goodbye in such a dignified way. Downton Abbey's story has ended, but its spirit will live on in the hearts of those who believed in it, long after the screen has gone dark. This was more than a finale. It was a gift.